many stories on how I use my intuition to actually get things done, to come up with these ideas.
What about a time when you didn't listen to your intuition?
I call that the fuck it voice. We all have had that fuck it voice. We literally have said, fuck it. Once upon a time, I looked at my phone and I had people who I knew were millionaires. And I said, why can't I be one? So I really was like realistic about what I could be. I'm really dope like that. I'm really good like that.
What do you tell somebody listening who wants to achieve high levels but doesn't know how to find that belief? People know you as a larger-than-life artist, like you collaborated with Kanye West, Nicki Minaj, Lil Wayne, to name a few. You've won Grammys. You've had this giant career. But I don't think people realize, one, where you came from, and then two, all the things you've done in business. There's a story about you where you turned like a $500,000 piece of land in Atlanta into a bunch of restaurants. Is that how that went down?
The properties in Atlanta about 15 years ago, they were, prime location properties for sale for $400,000, $500,000, which is a lot of money.
Right.
And so my realtor would tell me that compared to the rest of the United States in comps, that one day we're going to look back and we're going to wish we bought certain things because that's fairly cheap for prime real estate. So after I get this spiel over and over about just trust me, man, you're going to regret certain things, I bought a couple of pieces of land in downtown Atlanta in this historic place called Castleberry Hill. I had like 3 buildings, don't have any ideas. At this point, I'm just like hoarding properties. And so I met a young lady who had a business and she was, making good money out of a very small location. She needed a bigger place to take her business. I looked at her P&Ls. She actually went to school for hospitality. She was very passionate about this space. And before that meeting was over, I said, partner? And she looked at me and that was over 10 years ago. And we have locations and franchises, but I think I'm good at identifying passionate people in certain positions and identifying talent too. And anybody that I work with, because a lot of the businesses that you're going to speak on or that you've researched, none of them are solely just me.
Yeah.
It's always like a partner involved. And so when I first did this restaurant business, I realized that, first I realized that most Black-owned restaurants don't last 10 years and stuff. Then I also realized that in that space, it has to be more than, your grandmama's secret recipe or that you have to really understand the hospitality space. And so with, meeting this partner, I've been able to grow and learn a lot from her, and then at the same time kind of build out my portfolio as an entrepreneur.
So now you have 9 locations, is that right?
Man.
More than that, maybe.
We have maybe a little bit under 9,
okay.
But we should, because we're franchising now. Memphis, the Memphis Esco is doing really well. We have one in Dallas.
I gotta go check this place out. Is it true that you went head to head with the Pablo Escobar estate?
I forgot what they call these lawyers that just go around fishing stuff, but. And so during the pandemic, everything was shut down, right?
Yeah.
So except Atlanta, except Georgia, like Governor Kent was like, we're going to work. We're going to stay open. We going to work, all this. So half the people were like, this man is crazy. The other half was like, let's stay, so it was this whole thing going back and forth. The whole time, the United States is watching us and they're just coming to Atlanta like, I guess we can. And this is middle of the pandemic. Everybody wearing masks, 6 feet away, no hugging. People spraying you down with lights. So it just was crazy. Temperature, hand sanitizer. So I get back to the homeless during this time. I have something set up outside. I have like pasta, something like that can fill you up, and it's not, So I have like this pasta noodles. I got chicken. So across the street from Esco, a little bit down the street, is a homeless shelter. So I was like, man, let's just take this outside and feed the homeless. While we're feeding the homeless, of course, they're broadcasting this on the news. Somebody from somewhere else says, Esco, you can't. And they tried to really sue us. I think we end up settling this whole thing. It was a picture, so it was called Escobar, but I'm like a rapper. So when I came up with it, I was like, bar, like we got a bar, you get it? Like Esco is kind of like dope, right? We got a dope bar. I'm just playing with words at this time, right? And so to say that we became successful off Pablo Escobar's name was so far from the truth. We was like, okay, you talking about this picture? Let's take this picture down. And we put my picture up, and business has been just moving just how it always has been. But yeah, somebody tried to, how it is.
But I kind of like it. I think my dad always used to say, you're not really in the game of business if you haven't been lied to, stolen from, cheated, and not known what to do next.
Okay, well, I'm here. I passed this course. That's happened to me on numerous occasions.
That's the part nobody tells you, right? They're like, oh yeah, it must be so easy to Chainz. You're like famous, you start a restaurant. You're like, no, that's humbling.
Easy, it's not easy, man. And I thought about it because I thought about making this post, and I can say it here because I am trying to get my pre-orders up for my book that's coming out on March 3rd, right? So I was
excited.
I did all this content on like creating awareness, and then I just thought, why don't I just tell these people that if you have worked at any of my locations, if I've helped you indirectly, directly, any kind of way. It was once upon a time that the Esco franchise had over 100 employees, 130 employees. Some I know, obviously a lot I don't know. But from me owning a nail shop, even an adult entertainment place, it seems like one of my callings is helping young women, right? So I'm saying that if I've ever done anything to help any kind of way, then my book is only $20, and I would just like your support.
I love it.
That's all it is.
This also has a great title, though, by the way. Like, The Voice in My Head is God.
Yeah, it's weird. You don't think that's weird?
No, I think it's good.
Okay, me too.
I mean, I'm not surprised because you're good with words. But every so often you hear words, you hear a sentence, and you're like, I'm going to keep that.
Yeah. It hit me out the blue. It's just, I had the idea. Well, I have this voice in my head every day. I've had this voice in my head just that I kind of like use it as like, imagine like navigation. Like it tells me the smallest thing, tells me you should wear this today. And then it'll tell me the largest thing on, I don't think that's a great business decision. So it has this wide range, but it's filled with love. And I know it's coming from a positive place. So when people say God is within you, or are you a reflection of that? That's where I got the concept for that book title from. Like the voice, it has to be God, because like this happened, like, I listen. And then also speak on the effort voice. We all got that. And no, we shouldn't be doing it. No, it's going to be consequences, and we do it. So, it's kind of like the kind of cliche thing we used to see back in the days when it was like this angel on this shoulder, this angel on the other shoulder. But I started to believe in one of those angels.
Do you believe in God?
I do. Yeah, I'm not afraid to talk about it. I make people uncomfortable sometimes. I go to those big dinners and I just start praying on my food before I eat. And they're like, I just do that. My belief and my guidance and my faith has gotten me this far. So I don't think I should just like try to change it or come up with anything else.
The way that you've done music and the way that you've kind of like created movements around your music. And I don't know if that's that normal today, but I think about and you seem to care a lot about your community, which is like one of my core things. I like to own businesses by where I live because that makes sense to me. Like I want to go to a coffee shop that you own. I don't want to go to one that some CEO 100 miles away owns and he's never come in.
Gotcha.
You had one of the most genius marketing ideas I've seen that really didn't cost you much money at all, but blew up. You basically lease sort of an unremarkable house in Atlanta. You paint it the color of Pepto-Bismol, right? And then in 24 hours, you write trap on it. You park a pink car in it, a stove in the yard, and you use it to promote your album, which was huge. And then it became one of Atlanta's #1 tourist attractions. People flew in from other cities to take pictures. You had galleries and events, even a free HIV clinic. What were you thinking when you started creating this, and why did you create this trap house?
So I had an album that came out in 2017. It was called Pretty Girls Like Trap Music. Trap music or the word trap means in Atlanta, it symbolizes hustling. And most knowingly, it has to do with selling drugs. Okay. When you hear a lot of people in Atlanta, they talk about trap and it's hustling and selling drugs. So it's a type of music that people listen to. It's bass, it's heavy driven with bass, and it has these like lyrical connotations dealing with scales and just it's an underworld type of thing. So I had a project that was called Pretty Girls Actually Like This Type of Music. You just like it's just not for like, and it's just this old thing like when you used to when I used to come on, I used to be like, damn, the good girl always wants the bad guy. That's kind of like what it was. And so we actually rented out a house, we painted it pink, and we used it like a live immersive experience, and that's what it was. And we had art on the inside. So it was about me actually making the word trap a positive connotation instead of it always being attached to something negative. And so we did everything from church to HIB to art shows, and it lasted a couple of months, but the neighbors couldn't handle all the traffic. So we had to get rid of it.
Yeah, I think I saw a great line from you too, which was basically you were trying to save the house because they were trying to tear it down, and you called it the Eiffel Tower of Atlanta. Is that right?
It was though. Like at once upon a time, it was one of the most visited, sites in the United States. So that's just about something that is like this voice thing to me. It's an idea, and a lot of people I don't think understand how many people don't have ideas. And ooh. I am someone that gets these cool ideas all the time, and I feel like ideas are currency. Like people pay for ideas. People steal ideas. So you have to be careful who you even sharing with. But ideas it's something that we don't really speak about, because a lot of people in our position, people come to us with ideas and stuff to do. But for me to actually come to my team, man, this is my conversation. Man, I got another one. Man, before I even tell anybody, I'm like, boy, I got it. I did it again. So ideas is something that I don't think people really give a lot of credit to, because they can spark, a generation worth of just a wealth or whatever. If it's we've seen good ideas go, for eons. So, yeah.
I think you're right. Well, especially think about it in this world today. Like everybody's kind of freaking out about AI, right? What's going to happen with tech? But man, in some ways, the execution now is not the hard part. It's like, what idea are you going to do?
Imagine taking your idea and pairing it with an AI,
right,
who can actually show you the steps on getting, because we've all had ideas and just kind of left it as that, right? Just get so discouraged. Don't know where to start. Don't know where to look. Don't know who to talk to. But yeah, AI has opened up that, like, you got an idea? Well, let's push it through. So that is a good thing.
Do you believe that, maybe it's Rick Rubin who says, like, when an idea's time comes, you either let it out of you or somebody else will?
I saw that. And he was like, yeah, you keep playing something. It was like wind. It was like somebody else will catch it. I was like, dang. When I heard that, I thought about how many times I'm like, man, I thought about that. Man, you thinking that your thoughts is traveling. I swear. So when I saw that message from him, it stuck to me in the fact that I thought, I know I saw somebody's idea and I've had that same thought as well, but just didn't bring it to fruition. So,
but you have really been pretty prolific as an artist, as a business builder, as an idea generator for, decades. Mm-hmm. So I guess I'm curious, for somebody that's listening, that's like, I'm not a creative. We always hear people say that. What do you say to them?
I would tell them to quiet down the noise, maybe get my book. My book is not necessarily a memoir, but it has many stories on how I use my intuition, which is like a sixth sense in a sense for me, how I use my intuition, my discernment, that inner monologue to actually get things done, to come up with these ideas, to shut down the outside noise. I've actually used that voice in my head to get out of that rut. Like, sometimes you have to self-motivate yourself. That's one of the hardest things to do. And I know my peer group, some of my peers, like, man, how do you do it, man? It's like, man, one of my friends was coming to the studio, much younger than me. he texts me and say, man, I don't know how you do it, man. You go to your kids' practice. You go to He's like, I'm tired. I'm gonna come over tomorrow. And when I saw the message, I said, man, I'm just self-motivated. Like, I don't really have that battery pack. No one just like, I'm just like, I can look in the mirror and say, and just give myself that pep talk I need to go further and get my day done.
What do you say? What's your pep talk sound like?
In a nutshell, it's no one else is going to do this for you. I don't have anybody else. I don't have anyone, like I got people I love, but if I need something, like, it's not love that I'm needing. If I won't need it, I have enough love. I have a lot of love. I'm getting, a lot of love I'm giving. Are your parents still living?
Mm-hmm.
All right, what do they do for a living?
My dad's an entrepreneur. He wouldn't even call himself that. He'd be like, I worked my whole life. He was like, didn't go to college. He worked in a slaughterhouse. He, built up a marble and granite business.
If you needed something though, would you
call
think?
him?
You think you can call your parents for something?
Yeah. I could call my dad to at least be like I've had a time in business. I don't know if you've had one. I call it the head in the hands moment, where like they're like, I don't think I'm going to make it,
Mm-hmm.
and I have no idea what I'm going to do. Like, I don't know, and nobody else can know, and I might not make it out of here. And he's the one.
But you did know you can call your dad. You did.
I
know.
did.
Yeah. So so these are different levels of stress.
Yeah.
All right. It's like, I'm stressed out, man. I know he'll do it, but I don't want to call him.
Right.
Hey, Dad. But then it's like, I'm stressed out, man. I don't have nobody.
Was that you?
So that would be me if I sat down in my own like mope and you know what I'm saying? So, because I don't have my dad's not alive anymore, but if he was alive, I was never able to be like, front me some cash for my business or anything like that, and my mom. So I don't have anyone. So when you don't have like a person on top of you, you are the apex. You're the person that everyone comes to. Then you have to find ways on motivating yourself.
So are you now the person for your kids?
My kids were going to be straight, whether I was like successful or not. I think when you become successful, you attain more things. It's more responsibility, and that's where it kind of gets a little static and stuff.
Yeah, it can be hard. I don't have kids. I hope to one day.
You should. I think you'll be a great mother.
Well, thanks. I hope so. I got lucky. I won the birth lottery. I have great parents, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do anything for that. I just got to show up. I mean, but don't get me wrong. I'll take every fucking advantage I can in life, and then you figure out what you do with it, right?
You should. I think you should. I'm trying to get that in my little nepo babies. They don't want to say my name. Like, you should totally use my name to the best of your ability to get whatever you need. They have a problem with that, but
well, kind of good on them. As long as they do something real though, and are builders. Like,
yeah. I remember talking to the Hawks owner. He was like, "Man, you better tell them to use your name, like, because it's everybody's like, what are they thinking? Because it's like, if someone finds out in my line of work, if they find out that I have something to do with it, then the price automatically goes up. And think, yeah. So it's like, oh, this is nice. This is a nice rug. This is a very nice rug. It's 2 Chainz rug. Oh yeah, it's gonna be like 3,000. Yeah, it's gonna be. Oh no, it's Codie's rug. No, it's 200.
I'm sure you've had a lot of haters over the years.
Oh man, I wouldn't say haters.
What do you say? Like, how do you handle it? I think that's a lot of like, when I see the people who follow us, a lot of the comments I get are like, I'd be too scared to ever do that. Like, I care too much what people think, But
that's the thing, you don't. So then that's why it's perfect for you and not perfect for them. They're literally answering their own questions. A lot of times, if you look at the comment, they already, what made you, I wouldn't wear nothing like that. That was the answer. You wouldn't wear anything like this. You wouldn't. So a lot of times comments don't really, bother me. The hate stuff, I don't even, that word is kind of like overly used too. Like, everybody can't be hating. Sometimes it's constructive criticism, and so it just depends on how you're listening to it. But I don't get a lot of hate because I'm pretty much what you see is what you get kind of person. So
I kind of get that vibe from you overall, especially because I was looking at your background, your first solo debut that kind of blew up. You were 34 and like had been working for like 15 years. But then you completely rebranded, Charlemagne was telling me, like later in your career. He was like, that was super impressive. And I was kind of wondering, Like, what kept you going for the 15 years before you felt you had like made it?
I knew I had something special. I knew I was a star, and it was hard to explain it to somebody what you have inside of you without actually proving it. So with me, it was like I had been around stars. Once upon a time, I looked at my phone and I had people who I knew were millionaires. Like I knew these people were millionaires. Like I never saw their account, but I just know. And I said, why can't I be one? Somebody number, why can't I be one? So I really was like realistic about what I could be. Like I just knew it. I just knew I could crack the code. I just knew I would change. Just like when I walked in here, I could just change the room when I walk in. I just knew I had something. I had to and I just had to stay at it and not give up. I just knew I was special. I knew it was something to me. God took his time with me. And I know that, and can't no words or comments or anything like that kind of derail what I know is inevitable. Like I'm a real, I'm a superstar.
There's this wild study from 2016 that found that gut instinct outperforms careful analysis under pressure, but only when it's built on years of real experience. Turns out intuition isn't a feeling, it's a database. So Chainz has been running that database for 3 decades. And the best operators I know apply that same thing to how they build, knowing when a tool is working and when it's quietly costing you. So if you're running a newsletter on anything other than Beehive, it's probably the latter. The analytics alone change how you operate. You can segment your audience by engagement tier, track which content drives paid upgrades, see revenue attribution at the post level. That's a beautiful feedback loop. That makes every issue sharper and every decision faster. The monetization stack, totally unmatched. Beehive's ad network brings deals directly to you, and they just released on-demand ads, which gives you access to countless ad opportunities. Plus, they handle sales, reporting, invoicing, paid subscriptions, boosts, referral programs, all native, all compounding inside one platform. No patchwork, no margin bleed, and the growth tools are structural, so not cosmetic. Beehive newsletters grow 2.75x faster than the industry average because the infrastructure is built for scale from day one. Serious newsletter operators have already made the switch. Use code Codie30 for 30% off your first 3 months at beehive.com/Codie. I was talking to this guy before this. His name's David Senra. And there's all this data that actually proves that in a lot of ways, what you believe is what you become. And so anyway, we were talking about that. Like, how some people say you shouldn't believe it if you don't have proof, give yourself some proof and then believe it. But you seem to believe the opposite. What if somebody let's imagine there's somebody out there listening to us right now. And they're like, one day I don't know if they want to be Chainz, but they want to be their version of you, like their most successful self. What do you tell somebody listening who wants to achieve high levels but doesn't know how to find that belief?
The voice in my head is God. Like, this is how I feel. I'm not trying to sway, but this is how I feel. This is what I think. I'm an individual. This is my independent thinking. This is what I think. And so when other people do that, and then you get people around that understand, this is what she believes, and it's okay. This is her thoughts. Now, sometimes we look at stuff and we be like, that's pretty wacky. Like, something's wrong there. You know what I mean? And I get that. But with me, I don't let stuff like that bother me, man. I just came so far, man. I can't do nothing but just be happy, about whatever engagement I get, whether positive or negative, you know what I'm saying? I'm still recognized, being in the game so long, 15, 20, who's even counting anymore? I'm still recognized. I'm still not able to just walk outside and walk down the street. I'm still very much in it. I'm still in my legacy phase of just really putting the cherries on top for the things I did in the past with the entrepreneurial thing, the music thing, everything I'm doing. I shot my own short film. This book is coming out. So I'm building out the Chainz, legacy stamp more than anything.
Yeah, it's interesting. It seems a little bit more normal now. You see Taylor Sheridan owning sort of the vertical integration of his business. He owns a ranch where they film the show and he rents out the cows and the horses that he owns back to the studio. It's really smart. And
See, that's different. Really? That's so different. And that's what we got to get in us. See, we got to get that. I had to do somebody else's part, and it was at their house, by the pool, in the attic. And I was like, oh, you got some tax write-offs going on. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and you just like, man, that's information that needs to be shared. And it's just smart.
Well, I think I don't know if you give yourself enough credit. Like, I heard a story about how you spent money on like a tour bus and on a studio. And like, one of the reasons why you could record was for Nicki Minaj when she called you up, because you were smart enough to already have the studio that you built inside the bus when nobody was doing that.
Yeah. So I bought my tour bus.
Is that right?
Before I got my record deal. First of all, when I signed my record deal, basically the questions that I was asking labels was, I was asking about their international presence, because domestically I was already doing shows. So I went through 3 bands, these little conversions bands. We were just going. They call it the chitlin circuit, where it's like Memphis, the Carolinas, Alabama. You just go around this little chitlin circuit, the Southeast. You can become a millionaire. You go to these places every weekend. You pick up I don't know how much money doing 3 or 4 clubs, and then a few. And so I was going through vans. I said, man, I'm gonna need a bus, because I was getting larger. And I'm just going through these vans, so I'm gonna need a bus. And then plus I started, what I talked about convenience. It had a stove on there, it had a bed, it had a studio. So that's everything I need. Whether I had a hotel or not, I could really like make it work from there. So I bought that. I bought the bus. I don't know, it was maybe 300, a little bit over 300,000. It was used, but it was well kept. And then I would go on the road and still work. Like some artists, not most, but some artists go on the road, and then when they're on the road, they can't work because they're not near a studio. That wasn't my problem. I'll literally we'd be riding, I'd be working, I'd be working. So the incident that you're talking about with that song, she called one night, was like, I really need this song done by tomorrow. And she offered to get me studio. I can get you studio time. Where you at? Whatever. I'm like, nah, you don't have to do that. I'll knock it out when I get off stage. So that was one of the many stories where I literally, somebody gave me something and I just sent it right back, because I was in a position of just having everything I needed near me.
It's really smart, because if you think about it, like basically what you did, you vertically integrated the music. If you own the studio and you can rent it to other people, and if you own the bus and you don't have to rent it out to other people,
there you go.
Then you get the first dollars.
You get it. You get it. Got a chef on there cooking food. Got the chef. We let the windows open, and people in traffic like, what y'all got on there? What y'all cooking? You get to put them onions and garlic, and man. So yeah, this was something I did earlier. This was actually what I did before I got my record deal. I got this tour bus, and then when I got the record deal, I went on tour. Obviously, I already had the bus, because most of the time you have to rent buses to go on tour,
and they're expensive. I saw the markup; it's like 60%.
They're very expensive, and so you have to get the driver or drivers, depending on where you're going. You got to get them a room, whatever. But yeah, I did that. When you reach a certain level, I think convenience is something that we can't have enough of. So when I reached a certain level, I hired a driver, I hired a chef.
Yeah.
You put these things in place where you can just focus on the main thing.
Work.
And you have people who do what they do at a high level, help you out in different, areas that you need help in. So.
Yeah. There's this, this guy, Sam Zell? He was like this big real estate investor. He wrote this book called Am I Being Too Subtle? But he's kind of this cool, weird old dude. And he was billionaire a bunch of times over. But he had this great line that was like, the difference between a $10 million house and a $30 million house, like, doesn't really matter. He goes, but the jet matters.
The jet matters.
Yeah, because it's about convenience.
Yeah. I have a great relationship with the owners of the Hawks.
Cool.
So they invited my son and myself on like a recruiting trip. We went to like this Kansas versus BYU game, and we took like a jet, like a...
Not one of those tiny ones that I've been on before. No, big one.
Nah, it was massive. It probably seated 12 to 14 people or something like that. So it was cool, and it's cool for my son to experience that. But it's a difference in in jets as well. There's a difference in everything, but yeah.
It's true. Also, I like when other people pay for the jets. That's
What?
like I like that way
Jets
better.
are so
I
expensive.
know. I don't want to be paid for that.
Man, I'm so happy. I'm not happy, but when people started wearing masks in the airport, I was able to cut my jet bill by more than half because I was able to. Because I don't really get anxiety or nothing like that, but sometimes people just yell my name in these crazy places, and the airport is one of them. And I would be in the airport, and somebody would be like, 2 Chainz, and I'd be like, God, Lord, so the next time I tell somebody, yo, bro, just book me a private. I don't feel like, because it's like one person does it, but when people started wearing masks, I just kind of put my mask on.
Tell.
And I'm thinking I'm hiding, but it doesn't work like that.
No, that's not going to work. And then didn't you also buy back all of your masters?
Yeah, I did that. They don't come back. I bought them back, but they literally can't give them back to you for, I don't know if it's 7 or 20. I don't know the date, but yeah, they're supposed to revert back to me, soon. But yeah, I did that.
Will you explain how that works? Because I don't think people understand.
It's negotiating more than anything. You have to have leverage. It's not like it's not nothing that works. You got to have, like with any business, if you got leverage, then the conversation can be had.
Yeah.
If you don't have leverage in any business, if you ain't got leverage, I want to do this podcast at Times Square. They like, you can't just tell people, whatever. So with me, in these different phases of my life, I had a certain amount of leverage where I was able to get certain things. Normally, for syncs, and say if we were using my song here or something like that, we would have to go through the label because they own it until it's reverted back to me. And then songs like birthday songs, something I made that I'm sure someone plays somewhere in the world every day. It'll just be a bigger cut at the end of the day, a bigger split.
That makes sense.
Because some artists don't even have they didn't even have a great negotiating when they did their splits for their pub. Somebody else may have it in different. I have my pub. I have all of that. So it's just about getting the masters back.
That's so interesting. Do you like the business side more or the creative side more? Or do you think that they're all the same?
No, nothing is the same. Nothing is the same. But I love the creative side more because that's where I get my idea. That's why I get my, I can't believe. That's when I start talking to that voice in my head. That's when I get to saying, boy, I can't believe you came up with. It's like I'm talking to somebody, I can't believe you just came up with that. Like, yeah, man, that was, that's pretty good. That's a good one, man. And then, what if we do that? Oh, man, that's me. The business side frustrates me, and it makes me want to go out to the car and smoke one sometimes. So, yeah.
Not your favorite side. Even
when you got leverage, it kind of makes you a little bit cockier than you should because you're like, come on, man, I know y'all, so it's just messy. Business is messy to me.
There's a lot of people out there today that have had a really hard life, that have struggled in their background. Maybe they're thinking like, I got nobody but myself. It's all on me. And then they could look at somebody like you and go, well, he got out. How could I do the exact same thing? And my question for you is, like, did you always have this type of confidence in you? What does that look like?
Well, I work every single day. So when you work every single day, it becomes effortless. So if I needed to do a verse for somebody right now, I don't need to figure out a headspace to get in. I'm literally activated. This is what I do for a living. Rap and music is like a job that you never really truly clock in or clock out. This is ongoing. This is what I do. This is my professional. I don't need to have a certain candle or a certain type of water to get my ideas out. I'm really dope like that. I'm really good like that. So when people ask me for things like that, they get it right back. I don't have to it's going through I'm moving around. I'm ideating all throughout the day. So I have ideas. I have metaphors. I have different innovative ways to say some of the same things I've already said before, just in a different way or a different pattern. So for me, it starts first. You have to be highly confident in yourself and what you do for a living. And then I think everything kind of falls under that umbrella. And for me, confidence is like I didn't fall short in that at all.
No, you seem very confident.
I put a lot on myself. So even though I'm recording songs every night, they might not see the day of light because I have a higher expectancy for a lot of my things or a lot of stuff that I'm putting out to the world. But like if I'm doing a feature, if I'm working with somebody, I'm just comfortable in what I do. I'm comfortable in my skin, and it starts from there. I'm someone that didn't have much, And when you come from that kind of space, majority of the time, you want what you never had. You want these, you have all these screenshots in your mind of your driveway and your 3-story house, or what's your garage, or whatever that's going to look like. So coming from where the environment I came from, it just aspired to have larger than life things. When as you get older, you realize you don't even need all of these things. You don't need all these bedrooms because everyone can sleep in them. You don't need all these cars because you can't drive them all. And you've heard this getting to that point, but until you get to that point, you can't truly respect it and honor it, because when you're working hard, when you're doing whatever, when you work and putting the work in, how else do you, I'm speaking for me and my community, how else do you celebrate yourself? How else do you, I've seen people, Charlemagne, he's just reached an incredible height. It's everywhere. He's just being so, what are you talking about, 200 million? I don't know, they're making up lying on me. Everybody's lying. It's all up 200. But I could tell you that if I had got a 200 million, you would know. Hey, this guy just bought a jet. This guy. So you would know. Charlemagne, like, hey man, y'all stop spreading these rumors, but you would know. How would they know? You would know. Right? It's like, Cody has got 200 million. It's like, do these little yellow cups, they might just suddenly be gold one day. Like, you ain't gonna tell it all. It's like, damn. And then this little table like marble.
Honestly.
It's just small little changes, like, and so that's me. I get this money, we gonna these chairs gonna be different, the carpet, I'm going marble, the glasses, we're going gold straws, we're gonna have bond candles, I don't even know, different candles, live plants, live vegetation. It's just a difference when that money comes.
Yeah.
And certain people, I don't know. You might can get the money and still just keep it nice and subtle. But I'm gonna tell you honestly, like when you'll hear me pulling up, like, yo, Chainz is here. I come in, it's just different, man. It's just different, man. I think it's just nature versus nurture, however you were raised, really.
You seem like a man of faith regardless. Who knows? Like, that's not going to define you, but you could have fun with it.
Got to have fun.
Right?
Life is short.
I know.
Why are we not having fun, for real, though?
I know.
We're supposed to be enjoying life. I mean.
Have you ever struggled with anxiety from all the attention?
The things that kind of get on my nerves is people who, just drunk people.
In general. Yeah.
Around me.
Yeah.
If you're over there drunk doing stuff, I don't mind. I could look at you and laugh. But like if you're drunk and like, I don't mean like my friend drunk, like over here throwing. I'm like somebody that's like, yo, come on, Chainz, man. You don't know how strong you are. You don't know you slurring. You don't know you spitting. You don't know. That just makes me be like, leave me alone. That kind of messes with me a little bit. It's the alcohol, but I'm not a big alcohol drinker.
Yeah, me either. I like a little red wine. But
I've been doing my red wine thing too. My friends put me on red wine, some of my basketball friends. So I've been trying to like cab myself and Pinot myself here and there.
Go.
For real.
Well, now I know what to send you for coming on the pod.
You got to, come on, man. Send me whatever you drink.
You know what my secret is? This is so unrelated to anything, but I really am into French and Italian wines. And I'm a little bougie in some ways.
I mean.
But the fun part about those, you can get incredible wine. It's actually cheaper than U.S. wine often, but it's way better. It's way cleaner. There's no pesticides in it, and it's just like more complex. So we'll make a little note, David. I'll send you one of my. There's this like. Do you ever do like Barolo?
Yeah.
Or like I love a Brunello.
Yeah.
But I'm actually not that cool or classy. It's all my husband. He's like kind of fancy, and then he taught me because he was fancier growing up than I am.
That's another thing. You should absolutely get with a man that can teach you something. Yeah. I think all females should do that. I mean, yeah. So that's good. And
you're married.
I am.
And do you feel like, did you teach her something?
What?
Would she say you teach her something?
She better say it. Yeah, man. I think that's what it's about. You get in a relationship with me. Of course, a dude can bring, money and all this stuff, but like he got to be able to put you down, put you on something. Like, you know, I think that's important. And especially for somebody like me, I'm always traveling. I'm able to like, I guess this is what's going on, you know? So yeah, I think that's important. I have another business partner by the name of Joe. He's running I have a strip club in Atlanta called Candyland.
Yeah.
It's be open 3 years this year. So Joe is handling a lot of that stuff. So in Atlanta, I don't know about anywhere else, in Atlanta, the license to have alcohol and nudity, they put that out of commission in like 93. So you have to get grandfathered and you have to actually buy that from somebody else.
Yeah.
So just that whole process of doing that and getting this facility. I'm from Atlanta. Adult entertainment is a major part of how the city moves. It's not just for one group of people. You see all different types of people in these clubs, whether they are, you know, getting drinks, you know, watching TV, listening to the music, looking at the girls, eating, whatever it is. And so that was something that I couldn't have planned it, but it just happened like it was supposed to happen. And it's not many in the city. It's, you know, 2 or 3 or whatever. So,
whoa, and you own one of them.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That is cool. You and your husband can actually come. You can get some hibachi.
Do you think I'd like it?
I think you'll love it.
Really?
Everybody that's come to my club will love it. I mean, I've had friends from out in Cali. I've had friends from Germany, Russia.
And you have hibachi in the strip club?
Yep. I have hibachi. I have, you know, tacos. I have vegan burgers. My vegan burgers are delicious. I have vegan burgers. And that's another thing. When you have these type of places, why go out to eat when I can just call one of my businesses and say, I would like some salmon with some okra and spinach. Or
Plus, you want to pay yourself.
I like hibachi. I would like a shrimp and chicken hibachi or a shrimp and lobster hibachi. I go get it and I watch ESPN. I watch a game and a young, nice female walks past and we speak and, you know.
No, I'm Latina. I told my husband he's not allowed to talk to women, you know?
At all?
I'm kidding.
Oh, okay.
He's a former Navy SEAL.
Because I've heard, I don't know, like, I don't know. I hear some Latino women are a little aggressive. I have no clue. Because I'm from a place where it was just all black people. Like, College Park is, I'm from College Park. Then I went to a black school, HBCU. Yeah. So I went black on black. My elementary was black. Now I went to a black middle school. Now I went to my black. Now I went to blacks. And then I went to New York and LA. And then that's when you start seeing the diversity. And then early on, when I started seeing the diversity, I had to learn how to be, you know, this is sure ignorance. Like, so what you is? You know, just don't even know that. Just man, what? What are you? You know, like, what do you mean? What is this? So then having to learn how to ask people, you know, their background. So yeah, so I, you know, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm very intelligent, but just not knowing is just not knowing. You only know what you see and what you so.
Experience and intelligence are very different. Yeah.
One of my best friends that passed away, Johnny, he was from Puerto Rico, but he was like my real brother. We was the same person, so to speak. We had some of the same. We did a lot of the same things. So rest in peace to him too. But yeah, but so you hear different things about, you know, the passionate Latinos, and then you'll see how they portray their movies, and just like they do black people and everything else. So you just never know until you.
We women are crazy. But
I believe you. It's a certain way you just looked at me, and I just believe you. And I just want to tell your husband, bro, do right. This girl from 11 years old, she is not playing with you.
Yeah, it's funny. You know, but it's good because you have a son and a daughter?
I have 2 little girls. I have a 17-year-old and a 13-year-old, and I have a 10-year-old son. So I have 3 kids total. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because dads are super important to daughters. You know, I'm really close with my dad.
Okay, quick question.
Tell me.
Was it a period of time that you was like smelling your own whatever, or just being like, okay, cool?
Oh, that was a nightmare.
What was that, 13? What age was that?
Right about what you're
I just want to make sure I ain't...
You're right in the box, actually. Yeah,
okay,
in fact,
cool.
Yeah, it was a bit of a nightmare. But now my dad and I are the closest. He actually works with me now, and he's amazing.
I feel that with my oldest too. Me and her are like...
I'm the oldest too.
But you know, girls are just, they go through a stage where...
We're psychos, yeah.
They don't want to be bothered or whatever it is. And I have to understand that and give them some of their space. Because when you go through this stuff in your house, it's like technology knows it. So then all of a sudden you start getting this stuff like teenage girls are going through. It just pops up on your while you're scrolling. Stop. Do you have teenage girls that are in their room not speak? You're like, oh, so this is going on right now. So I'm learning how to just just be understanding and let them develop.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Like, does that end up coming into your music now? Like, is your music always sort of a reflection of where you're at in life?
That's a good question. Yeah, and a lot of my music I reminisce a lot. I use past tense. I had, a lot of it is me, like a reflection type of thing to in a lot of my music. I used to, so I'm not like saying I'm doing it right now. I'm not lying in any of my stuff. So yeah, but when it comes to, I guess like something that's personal is something like that I wouldn't. Although my newest album, I do have a song dedicated to my pops that has made a few of my friends cry. So I can't wait to that. So it's very just like plucking this heartstring.
I do want to talk a little bit about intuition because it's kind of the backbone of this book.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
I think in business, intuition is so important, but it's important in every aspect of your life. So I'm curious, like, what's your favorite point story about intuition from this book?
The book is a lot of tales, a lot of stories about my journey. And when I used my intuition, or when I listened to my intuition, once I discovered it, and the times that I didn't. And so, out of all the stories, it's just like, or how my mom or someone tried to, maybe she had the intuition before. I feel like women are born with it. I have a chapter in the book called Women Are Superheroes. I feel like women are just born with intuition. Women are just be like, I knew I shouldn't have listened to you, or I should have did whatever. So, and my book is about discernment. It's about that discernment. It's about the inner monologue. It's about quieting down the outside noise, tuning in to like the your inner connection, your inner Wi-Fi to the higher source, whatever you believe in, and listening to it say, man, I think you should give it another shot. I think you should go try to do this. I think you should leave that alone. I think it's time for you. It's about time for you to leave. This is, I think, and that's my voice talking to me all the time. Like, you've been here long enough. It's like, yeah, I have friends sometimes I don't know why. I just might get up and just start walking out the club. I just might get up and just, it's just time to go. So I think I'm trying to push the narrative to have people tap into that source that they have. I'm just trying to affect one person who may have sat up and said, something told me. If they've said that one time, if you've said something told me one time, then this book is for you.
What about a time when you didn't listen to your intuition?
I call that the fuck it voice. We all have had that fuck it voice. We literally have said, fuck it. And I think it's okay to have that voice, but you just got to be able to distinguish between it. But I think the fuck it voice has maybe gotten us into some trouble, or maybe had us live on the edge and not in trouble. But we've all had that, man.
And have you ever had a time where you're like, if I had this book, I probably would have not done that thing because I would have tapped into my intuition?
I think it'll help people navigate life differently. That's my ambition. I want people to be like, you know what, man, after reading your book, man, I realized sometimes I didn't need to be in certain places, and other times I needed to be in certain places, and things of that nature. The voice in my head is God, which comes out on 3/3. I want to be a New York Times bestseller so I can add it to the rest of my accomplishments. And last but not least, I have my audio book. It's a real true experience. I cannot wait till you hear the audio part of this. Of course, it's me. I'm an excellent, exceptional reader. So I did my own reading, but I also added production. So when you hear certain things that I'm describing, you can hear the sound effects that's attached to this actual scene. And I was listening to my audiobook in the car on the way home, and it's actually really, really riveting, and it's really cool. And I think people will enjoy that audio experience as well. It's by yours truly, 2 Chainz. I'm here. I'm happy to be here, and just thank you for you guys locking in with us.
Starting in trading is really humbling. We lose 45% of the time.
What does that feel like to lose tens of millions of dollars in seconds?
The very first time it happened that way, that was rough.
Do you think you can get rich if you don't take risk? Jenny Just is a self-made billionaire, co-founder of the legendary investment company Peak Six that has made money every single year for 28 years. If you want to figure out how to bet big on yourself and whether the next right decision for you is to go left or to go right, you're going to want to listen to this episode.
Time is massively important. It's definitely a marathon. It's not a sprint. When you have that great year, think about it over a 3-year time frame. Don't think about it as today's money.
What can poker tell us about reading the room in life?
You have to be thinking about the other cards at the table. Then you have to think about what they're thinking about your cards. If I'm sitting across from someone and I want something to happen, I want more money, I want a different position, I have to think about what they're thinking.
What's the most amount of money you've ever lost in a single day?
It's a lot.
So you're a self-made billionaire, right?
That's correct.
That's probably what you lead with when you come into conversations. You're like, Codie, really? First question? But I think it's really cool because one, billionaires are super rare, but to be self-made, then throw on you're a woman, not that many. And then you did it in finance and investing. But what's kind of cool, you didn't start out that way. And you've said a line I loved, which is, you said failure shaped you more than anything else. What does that mean?
Starting in trading is really humbling. We lose 45% of the time. So it's over and over and over. And that repetition, that compounds. I always talk about compound experience. Each one of those gets you a little smarter, a little braver, a little bit more nimble. I think I was really lucky to start in trading on a trading floor in person and sort of feel what it was like, right, to lose those dollars. But I did it when I was young, multiple times a minute. Yeah. So doing that allowed me then, as I grew, I put on my big boy pants and did a little bigger and a little bigger. People think of me as a risk taker because of where I came from, but I became one.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of people maybe don't know what trading is. And so really what this means is that you were either trading for your own book, your own wallet you could think of, or somebody else's, but you're on the line. Like every decision you were deciding, I'm going to put $1 and bet, quote unquote, on X to happen. And if X doesn't happen, I lose money.
That's right.
So like to put this in perspective for people, what's the most amount of money you've ever lost in a single day? Do you know?
It's a lot. Tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah. And
in seconds, right? That's not even, a whole day. It doesn't have to go by for that to happen.
Can we break it down, Codie? The 10 seconds was bad enough. Wow. What does that feel like to lose tens of millions of dollars in seconds?
When it first happened, the very first time it happened that way, that was rough, right? Was all that stuff leading up to this, fantasy. So a lot of second guessing, but you get better and from it, and you obviously don't want to do that again. But I literally just yesterday, right? So we've been doing Peak 6 for 28 years now. And there's always a situation in the market, right? It's why the smartest actually don't win. Long-term capital management is a great story for people to read about. And they were the smartest and they didn't win. So being humble about when things are going well, and acknowledging what was luck, what was skill, and then recognizing a situation where that same thing, it's going to happen again. What am I going to do then when it does? I just have to assume it's going to happen. I think that is so now how do I get comfortable? Because the first losses weren't that big, obviously.
Yeah.
But the more you put out, the more the chances for a big loss are. So
yeah. I mean, the first time, did you like when you lost a bunch of money, or you're like, I need to go to the bathroom, and then you just go get sick in the bathroom?
Yeah.
Or you just like, because I imagine like as you get older and better at it, those peaks and valleys, if you're going to stay in the game, if you can handle it and figure out mentally how to get through it, which I think by the end of this podcast, given everything I've read from you, we're going to help people get there, be able to manage the peaks and troughs. But I imagine in the beginning, the highs are high. You're like, bottle service at Tao on Jenny, I know what you traders did in finance.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. But I imagine the lows are really low.
They are. Yeah. And it's really about recognizing you don't have to have the highest high because you don't want the lowest low. And that's really hard for traders. And, we've had 28 years, never had a losing year. Let me knock on something.
Wow.
So, and that's really unheard of in our business. But that's also, did we have the biggest year of anybody? Probably not. But methodically reinventing ourselves and thinking about how that next market opportunity, new advances in tech, new advances in people how we're approaching the problem differently, right? Each one of those, we don't just assume that we're going to, we kind of think in 3-year cycles roughly of the next. Jenny and Matt is my co-founder, could be, in the garage, especially today with AI. So they could be there. How do we probably have to, it's been 3-year cycles. We probably have to shrink that cycle down, but a lot is possible with very few people these days.
What does it take to not lose money for 28 years in investing? It's like you and Renaissance. And I think they even had 1 year that was down. What does that mean? Like for somebody who's never really thought about like a risk budget or like risk allocation, how could they conceptualize managing risk?
You have to assume that the worst possible scenario. And you can also assume the best because people are already thinking about that, right? So I assume you're already thinking about what the best outcome is. But what is the worst possible? And then what is the slightly less than the worst possible? Like there is a wide range of outcomes. I think people are quite binary in their thought process. And what if? And then using examples from the marketplace that have happened before. People don't want to think GameStop's going to happen again. And you turn around and then there's another one. So, right, even the smartest in the world at the time when that was happening were betting against that stock could actually go higher. It can.
Did you bet against it?
Do we bet against it? No. We get what we often do in those cases, we get out of the way.
Yeah.
And then we'll figure out a good way to play it because we're active in 3,000 to 4,000 public company names in their options every single day. So we have really broad portfolio. So there's a lot of things and we like to be where the volume is for sure. So
that's why it's a really good way to think about it because by binary, basically meaning everybody thinks either I'm going to lose everything or I'm going to win everything. Yeah. And they're really at the broad end of both spectrums.
That's right.
As opposed to thinking, well, what would it look like if we just continuously won a little bit over time?
Yeah.
Or simultaneously continuously lost a little bit
over time. Same thing. Yeah.
Interesting. What I think is really interesting about you is a lot of what you talk about is, I even hate to use the word mindset because it's like almost touchy-feely, and you're the opposite of that. You're like very quant. But, your mission right now, I think, is just sort of what I would call break low-risk mindsets. Can you talk about why, for instance, so many people take little risk, don't take enough risk, and what you would tell them if they were listening to this?
First of all, it's very unique to the person. Like what taking risks to you means it's different than what taking to me. It's a very personal thing. And I think people have to be okay because they compare themselves. So if you self-assess, where am I on this, like, give yourself a risk scale 1 to 10. And then what is the purpose, right? Do I have a purpose for taking more or less risk? And I think for most people that are listening to you or coming and listening to me, they are yearning, right? There is a desire. As much as I look like I take a lot of risk, nobody would have called me a risk taker when I was younger. You can actually learn it, but you have to start. So what is a small risk for, if you're a young kid in school, it might be raising your hand in class, right? Okay. I got over that first hurdle. Now, how do I get over the second hurdle? How do I get over the third hurdle? But I have to make it a conscious exercise for myself, which is why when we talk about poker, I like poker so much because every hand is taking a risk, right? I mean, for a lot of people, just getting to the poker table is a risk. So, especially for women.
So you think young Jenny, she wasn't a risk taker?
I don't think so.
Was she tough?
She was tough.
Yeah.
She definitely was tough. I grew up with 4 brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Not a lot fazed me. I went down to the trading floor and, it's a sea of men. And the first day, a gentleman came up to me and said, "Don't worry, I'll protect you." A guy on our team. And I was like, "From what?" I was looking around a sea of dudes. Yeah. But, so that, that was the good fortune, I think, that I had, that I didn't let the outside get in the way. I was always a high achiever in school, but I did what I was told. I didn't sort of go on my own and take risk per se.
Do you think that most people understand the risk level that they are? Like, is that just, it seems sort of nebulous in some ways. It's like a hard concept to wrap your hands around.
Yeah, we've been talking about building sort of a risk tool.
Like a framework?
Yeah, a framework because just putting a stake in the ground somewhere, do most people understand? I think if they really were vulnerable with themselves, they do. And I think for people who call themselves risk taker, they also know there's another level. And by the way, risk doesn't have to mean jumping out of a plane. It doesn't have to be betting all your money, right? It just has to mean taking more risk than you are today. I was always looking, in my rear view mirror when we were building our company and when we were winning. I was like, when's the loss going to come, right? And so I didn't want to take that next risk. Hiring our 10th person, I was like, no way are we ever having more than 10 people. So that was a really big risk to me. And so I contextualize all the time what I do. Can I take more risks than I do today? Yes. I mean, when we've been just recently, right, in the last couple of years investing in AI, how big and where and right. And it's, it's another level for us. I have a funny story really quick. Yeah. It's when I love this because I said no to Jamie Dimon. So we had a plan A, and 28 years later, we've never done our plan A. We were trying to get a bank to be our partner to do over-the-counter equity derivatives. That's what we left to go do. That's what we did when we left O'Connor. And it was taking forever. And in the meantime, we started Plan B, which is a business that's been around for 28 years now. But it's not that we didn't want this other business to happen, but it was going on and on. We'd hired some people to work on it while we were focused over here. And Jamie Dimon was at First Chicago at the time. And so we got to the 11th hour with him. And it was dragging. So this is 1999. And we don't have our phones. Or I had a little calendar on my desk and I circled the date. And I was like, if we don't have an answer by this date, we're out. And they just didn't have an answer yet, right? And we called. We said, we're out. So.
I bet Jamie doesn't get told no very many times.
No. Yeah. Well, for sure, less so today than then.
But that is a hack right there. This is totally unrelated kind of, but like I'm divorced and remarried happily. But my first marriage, like we just couldn't figure it out and it was not good. And I put a date on the calendar.
Yeah.
Same thing. And I was like, we will either work through this and we will or if it doesn't come to the table in the way that we need to, this is the out date.
Yeah.
And I remember when the date came up, I was like, what am I going to do? Not keep my word to myself?
Right.
Like that's a pretty important word.
Yeah. And I think when you do it, the first time you do something like that, it's definitely motivating and it's inspiring. You're like, all right, I did what I said. And because it's time, right? That's a ways out. You don't know how you're going to feel or think or anything about that. Obviously, you have the luxury of changing your mind if you want. But by sticking to it, definitely changed my trajectory.
Well, you inspired me. Right now, actually, we do like, our members do like $300 million in small business transactions a year.
Nice.
And we have some banking relationships, but I want one deep banking relationship. And when I tell you, working with these SBA banks, what the piecemeal nonsense they want to do, where you can't actually see through to who bought, the business. And they're like, well, why don't you email us when they, close? I'm like, we have 100 million eyeballs a month.
Right.
We're doing more transactions in cumulative than some quarters you are.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I think I need to put a calendar on the date to say, if we don't do it by this date, I'm going to buy a bank.
Right.
And then I'm going to have no partners.
Yep.
And it's another example of an industry that is so outdated for small business.
It is so hard.
That I'm like, fine, I could buy one.
Yeah.
And so, all right. Now, next time you talk to me, if I don't either have the partnership I want or have bought a bank, you have to yell at me.
There you go.
Which is annoying. I don't know if you were like this, but my mom, like when I was growing up, she would always say like, she was worried about risk, actually. Risk was bad. And I think if you were to ask her, she would still kind of think risk's a 4-letter word, just like the rest of them.
For sure.
And why would you do something that takes more risk? And, I think she's a woman. My family, she was a school teacher. She really wanted things that were quote unquote guaranteed.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, you think that there is maybe this one skill or even a game that can help women break out of that? You want to talk about what it is?
I've been a quiet person for 24 years. I was a quiet person until I learned the game of poker. And I didn't necessarily have to be out there for our companies. But I have been trying to help women accomplish more what they want to do, which for me, it was clearly taking risk around money was like the biggest inhibitor. And when I saw poker, it was the closest thing I've seen to the training I got as an options trader, right? Because people aren't just going to become options traders. First of all, there's not that many in the world, men or women. And I'm going to go study options trading is unrealistic, I think. Playing a card game, however, is not. And the irony of the whole thing is, our firm is filled with poker players. In the financial world, you see them all the time. And I just ignored the game because only the guys were playing, first of all. I thought it was a waste of time. And little did I know, there's a little secret. They've been doing it for literally hundreds of years. And so I'll just tell the backstory real quick. So my daughter was 14 at the time. So it was in 2019. Playing a tennis match, losing. Her dad was a college athlete, frustrated. She's losing to someone she looks like she should be able to beat. And comes home and sort of chirps, to me, because he doesn't want to her, and says, she may as well be hitting against a wall. She doesn't realize she's playing against someone who is thinking and strategizing. She needs to learn to play poker. And he was more of a blackjack guy. And I just thought he was being ridiculous, and I walked away. And like 2 weeks later, I was like, should I teach my 14-year-old daughter to play poker? And then, of course, that annoyed me because I would never have said that. I have 3 sons as well. I've never said that about them. And by the way, they already knew how to play because they all just seemingly figure it out, you know? And so I did an experiment, right? What does a good entrepreneur do? And 10 girls, 10 moms. And it's the only reason I'm sitting here, honestly. So the transformation in those girls from lesson 1, literally 4 1-hour lessons, to lesson 4 was like literally the skies opened. It was so extraordinary. Now that at the time was really all about confidence. That's what I saw. But as we proceed to move forward, actually was going right into COVID. I was like, well, we'll do more of this. We had like 3 states, 17 clubs, something like that. And this is all about being in person. We, months in, we're like, I guess it's not about being in person anymore. So we better figure this thing out. So we actually go to peak 6 employees, a few thousand employees. So we want to teach your daughters and your sisters and your nieces. And the women were like, that's so good for them. Why aren't we learning? And I was like, great idea. So we start doing it on Zoom, of course. And Morningstar, large international firm, heard what we're doing, asked to do it. And today, now we've taught over 300, I think it's like 370 companies, 60 countries. And through that process, I started to learn. And that's when I saw that same repetition, playing that hand, making that decision with imperfect information, playing people, right? Because we're trading, right? There's a customer on the other side. Even if I don't see them, there's somebody there. What are they doing? Why are they doing it, right? A thought process that I hadn't seen outside of trading was right there in this card game. And when you think about, right, how men espoused the game for so many years, but our presidents play. I just met a man the other day who would play with Obama in the White House when Michelle was on vacation, So it was
naturally.
Yeah. Yes. And I think the Trojan horse, honestly, for women to learn this game, play this game, build those skills. By the way, this isn't something that you are naturally, someone might be naturally good at it. But there's 0 reason why you cannot be good at poker. And then once you start to understand the core of it, how it translates, not just to business, but to life too, whether it's relationships, decisions that you have to make in life, right? You can see how that hand you just played looks like that negotiation you did, how that hand you played looks like that meeting you were having. Like, where's the power, right? Is the person with all the chips? Certainly. But what if a couple people have the chips at the table? Now, where's the power? Well, where's the position that they're sitting at the table? Each layer is quite an extraordinary way of, unfolding stories in your life. And when you start talking to people about why they played a hand a certain way, there's so much to gain about how other people think and how they approach. My last bit is the most fascinating thing. We've been doing this because obviously we're teaching mostly women. We will teach men. We're teaching some of your men today, but most men already know how to play, and we're teaching people from scratch. But the surprise when they start playing the game, what's actually happening, and how quickly they can translate it to what they do at the office every single day.
Buying a business or launching your own venture can feel impossible if you're stuck figuring out the website, logo, email, marketing all at once. But here's the good news. GoDaddy Aero is here to help. So just a few prompts, it builds a professional website, a logo, an email, even social content, all tailored to your business. It's like having a whole launch team in your laptop. Instead of months of grinding, you can go from idea to launch-ready business in minutes. No more waiting, no more guessing, just a real online presence that you can grow with day one. Suddenly, the thing that was just a tiny idea in a notebook is online, polished, and ready to scale. So if you're ready to take your idea to life, head to GoDaddy.com/Codie Sanchez and try GoDaddy Aero today.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it's got a cool factor.
Yes.
Too.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't hurt the swag at all. Yeah.
No, it does not hurt that. And I always thought about it as gambling.
Yeah.
And I don't like gambling because I don't like risk.
Right.
So I'm like, I'll bet on myself all day, which, if you think about it, is another type of gamble.
Uh-huh.
But it wasn't until I first started talking to you that I thought, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Because you and I talked last time about, the thing that keeps me up at night, because I know there are people listening right now, and we could give them every tool and every tactic and every how-to.
Mm-hmm.
But if they don't have the right mindset, if they're not willing to actually take action, which is a risk, and increase their risk tolerance, because my belief is by and large, it's harder to get rich if you don't take some risks.
Yep.
It just
Agreed.
seems harder. And that part, I've never had a really good solution for how we could teach them that. Because it's all the touchy-feely stuff, right?
That's right.
Like manifest and fluffy
Fancy
and blah,
and
blah, blah.
yeah.
And I'm not so good at that.
Right.
And so, but then I read this thing the other day that I want your take on. The quote was, "Making money isn't hard. Unlearning everything you know about it is. Money goes to people who treat life like strategy, not survival. This isn't about luck. It's about leverage, understanding the rules, then bending them in your favor." Do you think that's true?
I think there's a lot of truth to that.
I think there are a lot of things we're told about money that may or may not be true. And I'd be curious your take if I could rapid fire some like money sayings to you, and you could tell me, what do you think about that? True, false, and what are your thoughts? Okay. Here's the first one. You should just save and skip the coffee.
I think you got to have your coffee, but if you're not saving somewhere, we're really good at defense as well as offense. So, and I think you have to have members of your team on both sides. And, but if you're not enjoying yourself along the way, none of it's worth it.
Yeah. What about if you deserve it, you'll get it?
That's a little tougher for me, I would say. An above average, I'm talent, right? But, and we've done a lot of experiments at Peak Six on types of people we've hired. And maybe deserve is the same as the hard worker. I'm not sure. I don't hear it that way, but the hardest working people are the people that have succeeded on our team, and people stay because they know they're rewarded for working their butt off. And the version of them that comes, right? It's not the most obvious person. I think Peak Six has done a really good job of bringing, a wide range, including a lot of females, more than anybody else in the market in terms of capital allocators. People are actually making decisions around money. Yep. We kill them. And, honestly, I think one of the reasons why we succeeded is because I brought a different viewpoint. You have to remember, this is 1997. Like, for my co-founder to choose a female, that wildly unheard of. Well, there's very few to pick from to begin with. Did I deserve it? Right? I worked my ass off.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I was watching a video the other day and it was like, I just want you to keep repeating, like, I will be rich. I deserve to be rich. So I was like, we're going to need to add a few steps to this process because I don't think it's not going to get you there.
Who can say it the most?
Yeah, I was like, a lot of conviction, the young woman had. But then I saw it had 1.5 million views. And I sat there thinking, oh man, sometimes we've got to ask ourselves, are the people that we're listening to the ones who have actually done the thing that we're trying to get?
Right.
That's why I think it's interesting when people who have made a lot of money, had a lot of success, are willing to talk about it. It's not that common.
Right.
Like, does it still feel weird for you to talk about, like, when people call you a billionaire, you're like, it feels weird.
Awkward.
Yeah, it feels awkward.
It's weird. But I also know, like, to represent, like, it's important.
Totally.
So...
yeah. You know what's crazy? We've had 3 female billionaires in here in the last week.
Wow.
Is that crazy? Because there's not very many. So then I was like, what's our percentage? We got a high swing ratio
That's
here.
pretty good.
I was like, this is pretty good. What do you think about be patient? Wealth comes with time.
For sure. Time is massively important. It's definitely a marathon. It's not a sprint. I do think there are, moments that are not exactly that, right? Unexpected days, we make a lot more money than we should have. We tell our traders too, when you have that great year, think about it over a 3-year time frame. Don't think about it as today's money, right? We don't want, because traders can be like athletes in many ways, way too much money at too young of an age. And And we're really proud that people tend to stay a really long time with us. And being a role model who's conservative around spending, right? We're really also super conscientious there, maybe too much so. We've definitely been criticized for that in the past. Like, we're watching the pennies too closely. I'm just like, well, if you don't want me to watch your pennies, I won't, but I'm going to watch mine. So
What you said you do a lot of experiments at Peak Sinks.
Mhm.
What are some experiments you do with your employees or to determine strategies? Because it does seem like you're a very systems-oriented thinker.
Yeah, we are. Well, we like to know what is working. It's really hard to discern, what actually it is. I'll give you this. This is a fun example. So my co-founder grew up playing hockey. 6 years in, we got married, as an FYI. So I know him very well, and but always interested in the NHL. And so when the opportunity was there to potentially, be part of a team, we were looking at it. At the time, so let's call it, early 2000s, there were like 6 guys talking about hockey statistics on the internet, and he was one of them. But they're all really bright. And we said, well, what if we took all of those people and we just brought them in as a class? And is there something about their approach, the way they think, that might make a different type of options trader? We did that with poker players many years ago, before I knew poker. We've done that with taking the smartest people that would possibly come to us. That was a complete fail, by the way. But anyway, so back to our hockey people. So they came on and they were okay. They weren't great traders, but they were there working on, hockey analytics. So if indeed we ever had a team or not. Anyway, they ended up leaving, going to hockey teams. And we were talking about this the other day, which is why I was thinking about it. I think the last 12 Stanley Cups, 5 were either 1, I think 4, and then 1 was second place. Whatever, runner up, whatever you call them, loser. But we're ex-Peak Six data people.
Wow.
Well, they're data people for the hockey teams, but yeah, ex-Peak Six employees.
So you're like, what's that movie with the baseball guy?
Moneyball.
Yeah, you're like the Moneyball of NHL.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, Matt loves. So
should you have taken a little piece of those teams?
Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, the Panthers is one of them. But we ended up being part of the Minnesota Wild for a little while.
Interesting. That's crazy.
Then not anymore. But
so then, is it true that the smartest people that you've hired for traders do not make the most money?
We train people have no knowledge coming in. So you don't have to know. You don't have to have a finance background, an econ background. You could have a history background. Matt has an English major. So I was an English major. I was a business major. So we're looking for people at the end of the day who work really hard, who are curious. And obviously they have to be above average intelligence, like just to get into the math side of options trading.
As measured by IQ? Do you give people IQ tests?
We don't give them IQ tests, but there are lots of interesting, mathematical ways to solve problems. Yeah. Google, when they first started all those creative ways of testing people, we like to do that too.
Do you have like a question you ask them every time? If I want to come work for Ginny, do I got to?
No, we don't. No, because I obviously don't interview the young kids anymore, but we keep it fresh because there's so much sharing and stuff that happens now. But
otherwise they'll cheat.
But there's a lot of culture that's involved in our hiring too. We're different than a bunch of the other trading firms on who we bring in and who we don't bring in. But it is, they love it when they come. Like that is one of the things we're most proud of. Though the other interesting thing is if they leave, we haven't had any ex-Peak Six people really, create a firm like we created a firm.
Interesting.
Though that is also true of many. You see that actually some of the other financial firms, you'll find some, but not so much. It doesn't happen that often, right? There's not that many option trading firms, for example. So, but the Susquehanna, who was O'Connor, where we were at, competitor forever is still there.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah, well, I met a bunch of those guys at AEI. I think I was telling
I'm
you
sure.
last time. And I didn't, to be fair, I didn't really understand. You know, when I was in finance, I was in private equity and asset management, but you know, like index funds, commingled funds, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I always thought about trading. Maybe I did that in the beginning, but it was really like arbitrage trading. It was like for, you know, State Street, just making a market.
Right.
And then I met those guys and I was like, and I think I could say this about them and they would be fine with it. I was like, you guys are weird. Like this is a different crew.
Yeah,
you know?
it's a whole different animal for sure.
Yeah, they're like physicists and rocket scientists that now trade online. So half of what you're looking for are these people who basically, they just see the world slightly different. There's some like sort of asymmetric little spin they have.
There is.
That everybody else doesn't have.
Because it's really a commodity at the end of the day. But, you know, being in equities, this is what I always say, especially for females, like companies are about people's stories, right? Just like here, you know, it's about your story. And following people is really interesting. Following the AI story is really about the people who are doing it. And so, I think it's a great place in the equity world for women to get their feet dirty because they draw out that and they have real nuances about what they can understand or not understand. Again, because I see myself, like why was I able to? I was trained by someone who was really good at what they did, and that's what we do for our people. So, if you're interested in the markets at all, like going on the equity side is a really interesting place to start.
So is the framework for being able to take more risk and thus potentially have more reward, it sounds like, and tell me if this is wrong, so something like you have to do it more. This is your compounding experience.
Yep.
Then you have to do it, I don't want to say the correct way, but with some sort of mentorship or guidance, just any sort of risk taking, probably not great. It has to be some sort of structured risk taking.
I think it helps. It helps move the ball systematically forward.
Yeah.
I don't think it has to be, but I do think that helps for sure.
And then what's the next step? If it's take a lot of risks, structure the risks, and then take bigger risks?
I think the next step is, you know, again, there's this idea of risk management that I'm doing. How am I evaluating my doing? And you need time to go by. We don't know if a trader is going to be great at their job or not for a while. Just like you can go and be a beginner poker player and be a pro. You can. That happens, you know? And so you need enough time to go by and then some assessment of that data to start to tell a story. It's like playing a hand versus playing, you know, an entire game of poker. That's where the hands add up to the game. And hopefully, you know, the game, you know, that your table, then you're moving, it's like more like a tournament, right? Then I'm moving on to the next table and I'm moving on to the next table. So along the way is, and maybe it's, you know, the context switching happens so much as you're taking risk. You open yourself, like your aperture opens up so much that your regrouping becomes more important, not less important. Like as we take more risk in AI, I make sure we step back and say, okay, is that really what we meant to do? Because all of a sudden we're in so deep. You know, it's the same thing, you know, like I'm on the turn, I'm on that fourth card that comes out on the table and I've got a lot of money in this thing. You know, the one thing as a trader you do, you go home at night, you mark to market everything. If I had to start tomorrow, would I do exactly what I'm doing today? And if I didn't, and if I shouldn't, and I should pivot, I got to get out. I got to get out of that hand in some way. And some things you can't get out of, obviously. It's one thing to fold the poker hands and other things to get out of a business or a business line or something along those lines. But the reassessment, the loop, right? You don't have to go all the way back to the beginning. Once, you know, you're on 10 times of doing this, you're going back to 5 and you're reassessing the 5 to 10 because you got better. You went to a different level, 1 to 5, then you went to 5 to 10, right? And you're going to come back and reassess, you know. I mean, there's no I think there's no stopping learning. I think people think once you get to a certain like dollar amount or something like, ooh, you know it, you know the answer. Oh no, there's a lot more to come, right? I remember, Matt used to say, so what's your number, right?
Yeah, totally.
And we all would say it to each other in
What
some
was it?
form. Well, it was $10 million, right? Then it was $100 million. Like, wait, so then what, right? It's the same idea. How do you, life moves, right? And if you have figured out a way, but it's not a given. I mean, we've had some serious investments that have been really big valuations that have gone to zero. Like we're talking 13 billion, a zero.
Oof.
So that those are real. You're watching some of these AI stocks move around, like people are getting hurt. And a lot of people are making a lot of money, right? If you're in crypto. So like every step opens you up, I think, differently. But I also think what I love about some of the people who, are following you is that I know where I want to go. And I don't need to go to that next. I think I have a little bit of an entrepreneur's, disease.
You think so after like 15 turnarounds? I was looking at all the companies you've like taken and grown.
Yeah, it's not, I have to really consciously tell myself to no, because it's interesting to me. And people who are entrepreneurs are interesting to me. Yeah. And I want to see them, I want them to feel what I got to feel, even the bad moments, right? They really have to be ready. I think that's the me in 1997 versus someone starting today. It's you're not sharing your fails, You're living your fails. Like I just keep my fails on my desk, just the list.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Like a piece of paper with all the things you lost money on?
Yeah.
Wild. How is it? 1 page, 2 page?
Oh, it's long. So it's not all the trading because there's so many trades, right? But it's the company fails, right?
Wow. That's amazing. That reminds me of like Astro Teller from Google X. He used to put on his wall in his office his failure resume.
Yeah.
That's fascinating because my other friend who's a hedge fund manager, he does the same thing. In his bathroom, he has a picture, like really big one, and on it are all the companies that failed that he invested in. And like some of the emails of people telling him like, you shouldn't do this. And then he did it anyway.
Yeah.
Well, what is that? Is that like an inoculation to remind yourself you're not superhuman?
Time heals things, and the pain and suffering of some of those. I don't want to make that same mistake just because I can. Why should I lose $5 million or $50 million on something if I truly know better? When you have quantity, right? And I think I heard you say recently, why have 3 businesses that are okay? We can have one really good one. I totally agree with that. It's distracting. It's a heavy burden. But some people are just built for that. So the fun and the drive and the curiosity, can I, right? So we've created two multi-billion dollar businesses. Do I want to create a third? Absolutely. Wish I didn't. I really do though. I want to prove it. Why? So who? Well, it's really to me, and nobody knows. Nobody really knows anything because we're a private company. So, but, it was one whisper, one moment in time because we were supposed to take one of our companies public. And then we didn't. It was sort of in the SPAC craze. So that's one company gets leaked and that's how that whole story goes. But it turns out that story is great so that I can get more women playing poker, right? So that's what drives me to be in public at all and talk. But it's an itch that you want to scratch, and you have to be super conscientious. I don't care if you have a big business or a small business, but that desire, that's what the failure list.
By the way, I have a live event. I only do one a year. It's huge. How big? Really big. in Austin, Texas, just for people who want to make more money, buy businesses, build businesses. It's called Main Street over Wall Street. So if you liked this episode, you're probably going to want to be there. There's only a couple hundred spots left. So click below. I want to shake your hand in person in Austin, Texas, or go to msows.com. MSOWS. We'll see you there. Hey, it's your friend Cody. By the way, guys, I just realized that a bunch of you are not subscribed, which is crazy because I feel like we hang out every week and we talk about how to make your life better, how to make your bank account bigger. And I want to do more of that. So one, thank you for being here. Like sometimes I'm like, pinch me moment, you know? And also share this with a friend, subscribe. The only way we grow is when you share it. And we only show up on your feed when you subscribe. So I promise that if you do that, I will continue to make this podcast a way for you to steal all my rich and successful friends so that your life can be even better every single day.
Do you think you can teach people to love the game like that? Like to become obsessed with just playing, whether the game's business or poker or life? And if so, how do you teach yourself to love hard things in business?
So I think there has to be some inherent like desire that starts it. Can you put fuel on the fire? Absolutely. I think part of the way to do that is be surrounded by people who are amazing, right? Amazing in whatever way. So like we yearn for, in the arts, right? When we, fashion, whatever it is, like somebody, Matt's some energy company in the middle of Utah, in the middle of nowhere the other day, just because we're so curious. And so I think that curiosity builds, sort of the awe of being a human, what other humans are capable of doing. And we so enjoy watching that. People enjoy, hearing financial stuff from us, especially in Austin, which has been really funny. They're like, we don't know you people.
Yeah,
down here.
very much so.
So that's been fun since we moved to Austin. But
you people. Now they will.
Yeah, now they will. But yeah, that I think when we are looking, I know you talk about green and red flags. We are looking for someone who doesn't have all the answers. We are looking for someone who's curious and wants to figure them out, because I think it's inherently drawing ideas. We do this a lot. Like our very first piece of technology was because I went into a Wendy's, and which is funny. And whenever I say that, I'm like, why was I eating at Wendy's? But anyway.
You look like you frequent the place.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. But literally there was someone there taking the order, and then there was, it used to be that big boulder of a screen was in the corner, and maybe you don't remember that, but I do. And someone was doing the fries, and, we used to laugh, you're the fry guy, but that was our tech we built. And because how were we going to, as a couple people in a room, going to manage, because you have to be broad enough in your trading, right? It's not like we're Goldman Sachs and we have flow, right? We're just two people in a room. So we have to get a broad enough portfolio for this thing to make sense. But eventually it was Walgreens, it was Walmart. Like we created an inventory management system for options trading. And nobody had talked about that before. We literally had off-the-shelf models where everybody was like, the smartest people were creating the best models themselves. Whereas we just bought. So we just approach the problem differently. How do you do that? I think by being curious about the world, being curious about learning new things and abstract or angular to what you normally do.
What companies have you invested in or built or turned around that you're really proud of, but you don't talk about a lot? Because you have a lot of them. Like, are there a couple that you're like, you know what, we did this thing and nobody even knows?
I think there's a lot of pride in turning anything that's like hemorrhaging into not hemorrhaging. Like there's a lot of pride just in that. There's a lot of pride in helping the people who put their heart and soul into it to not feel like they caused a calamity and were really part of something that worked. It just needed some small tweaks. I think there probably isn't there. I think there's probably more that I'm pretty tough. I'm not I'm not the one to pat on the back very often. I think there's a lot more that I think we could have done a lot more for. Ultimately, there are people who are behind these things, right? That I wanted some other outcome, right? Yeah. There's more fails than there are successes. But even ideas we had that we, thought could be interesting. We were either cocky or stupid, or, we just didn't really understand it so much. We've entered the insurtech space, which is fascinating. I didn't think anything was older than sort of like the way the financial world, the meat and the pipes of the financial system work. Oh no, yeah, just go into the insurance side of it, and it's a whole nother. But that doesn't mean people want to change.
Yeah.
And so those are the things where I just, the weight of the world on like, I know we can. Does anybody care? Right? And I'm trying to bring a team along to care with us and be different, and approach solving the world differently. But, they're big industries. That's what I think also why I get the entrepreneurial itch, because there are, these smaller businesses that you can continue to do that give amazing opportunity for a small team of people that you don't have to take on that massive world. Unfortunately, we're sort of in that space. So, but yeah, I think
you're big now. So
yeah,
you can't get the same thing out of like $1 million laundromat.
No.
I don't know. Maybe
you never know. You never know where it might show up. It's funny though, because one of my partners, he talks a lot about those types of businesses, and he and I would always talk about them, and so I'm fascinated by it. I think there's an incredible amount of opportunity, in sort of cycles. I think we're in a really good one right now with AI to help you sort of leverage it faster, like unique opportunities that come along. And what does that mean? Whether it's either just helping you on the marketing side, or it's helping you on the research side, or just helping you execute the bones of getting a company off the ground, which is always more burdensome than people think it is. Yeah. But you have all those, the tools in your toolkit just got fucking awesome.
That's amazing, because I think a lot of people are really scared about AI right now. They're like not as optimistic. Maybe the builders, people who really understand tech, are like, oh my God, every day I almost can't keep up with the new things. But what would you say to somebody who right now is like, I'm super scared of AI. I actually think it's going to take over and make me irrelevant.
Yeah. Wildly important that you get your hands dirty. Right. So, for Poker Power, we're building tools all the time for our app, for marketing reasons, et cetera. I'm like, I'm going to get in there and build the tool myself. Right. So
what are you using? What are we coding with?
Well, all Claude code.
Okay.
But
do you ever use Replit too?
I have not, but I've heard of it.
Yeah,
but I think it's really important. Like, who cares that it doesn't go anywhere? It helps in so many different ways, from how to think about solving the problem to how to get a thought into the world in some form or fashion, to, at a minimum, having communication with somebody else or technologist who knows. So I think getting your hands dirty.
And you can't mess it up.
You can't mess it up.
Which is super cool.
Yeah. And by the way, everybody else is getting their hands dirty now too. They're not experts. Yes, there's some technologists. We're not trying to compete with those people, right? There's 98% of the world who's just like you.
So we talked a little bit about poker, but if business is a poker game, what are the deadliest tells in entrepreneurship? What do we have to watch out for that we are signaling to other people as entrepreneurs?
I think entrepreneurs, that their biggest tell is their overexcitement about the possibility. And so they have a great hand. I'm just not playing, because I don't believe. So, or I might play strongly against them, meaning I might exit. So, and we see that a lot, because we do see a lot of newbies that do come in. We're happy to think and listen and hopefully mentor a little bit, but nothing can go wrong. And it's like, I don't know, that flush might come out and all you have is two pairs. So, and they're just not cognizant. Yeah. Just a little naivete, I could say.
How do you flip that around? So if you are really excited, what do you need to do to temper that? Is it having plans A, B, and C? Is it being honest about the risks? How would we get Jenny on board? You know, if I'm like, I'm an entrepreneur, I want to do something with Jenny. I want to show her how great I am, but also show her what a smart thinker I am.
Yeah. There's a bunch of things. We always say there's like sort of not a formula. It's more like a picture. I think that they have to be aggressive on the offensive opportunity. They do. But if they can't address anything defensively and or they cannot, they have not shown where they have failed in the past or acknowledgement of failure in some form or fashion, whether it's in this product or somewhere else, I think those become definite red flags for us. I want to know, like, you're going to conquer the world, but I also want to know how you're going to methodically get from A to B to C. So
I think a lot of times it's really important as an entrepreneur to understand what's happening in the room around you. Like, context is super important, not only in, running a business, but let's just say there's somebody listening and they want to get promoted, or they want to do better in their job, or they want somebody to take them more seriously. What can poker tell us about reading the room in life? What cues?
yeah, so this one I love only because it's so relevant. The context, right? We talked about levels of thinking. So if you're just thinking about your cards, you might get lucky. You have to be thinking about the other cards at the table. Then you have to think about what they're thinking about your cards, right? So if I'm sitting across from someone and I want something to happen, I want more money, I want a different position, I want a different challenge, I want something, I have to think about what they're thinking. And I have to think about what they're thinking about, if it's my boss, the rest of my team, I have to think about what they're thinking about, what they owe to their boss, right? I have to literally set the table in full color as opposed to black and white. And that's where we get messed up. It's like, I would love to give you more money, but did you hear? Were you at that meeting over there? It's probably not a good time. It's just, there's some things that are wildly simple and people are just so adamant. They're like, they've been so frustrated and they come in and they just want A, B, and C and because they're not addressing the context. That's why when you sit at a poker table and you start to learn, right? And now you're like, oh, I'm going to play with my family. Oh, I'm going to play with my friends. I'm going to play with strangers. Like, all of a sudden you go, oh, that's why this is like the office. That's why it's like that meeting. That's why it's like that conversation. Because I don't know everything about the people I work with. And one fascinating thing we've done with our management teams is have them play poker together. It's amazing what our managers learn about their teams by playing poker with them, and vice versa. But, obviously I hear more from the senior managers. But
like, would an example be like, Mary always folds really early or doesn't put a lot of chips on tails?
Absolutely.
She doesn't take a lot of risks.
Yeah, absolutely. No question. And then now it's a conversation. Yeah. It's a conversation with Mary. Like, I noticed this. Like, you want to do it in a way so that Mary still keeps coming back to the table, right? Because you want her there. But you want her to recognize, so what do you see? How do you approach Mary? And, what did you do on that hand? Why? What if? One thing you can probably work on, right? And all of a sudden she starts doing it, because that is way uncomfortable for Mary to do 3 times the big blind when she goes in. She just wants to tippy toe in. So what message are you sending? And they start to learn. This is where the self-assessment starts to come in and go, oh, wow, I didn't realize.
So to wrap up, if there's, let's say there's a woman listening out there right now, and she knows, like you said, her gut, she knows that she's not taking the right level of risk that she wants to in her life. She is a little scared. She's not sure what to do next. And, she might not have even understood all the things that we talked about today. Like, what would you tell her? Hey, if you want to level up your life next, and if you want to change your mindset about risk and your capability, what advice would you give her?
For me right now, because I've seen the impact with so many women, hundreds of thousands, what the emails I get, the LinkedIn stuff we do, the DMs, learn poker. And I also say, like, if I could have learned poker when I was younger, I think I would have saved 10 years out of mistakes in my career.
You would have had your $3 billion company.
That's right. I'm behind.
Real slacker. Jenny,
right.
This was such a pleasure. I love your mission. We're going to put in the show notes the link to your website, which I think is, I loved the risk question at the bottom of the website too. It made me think about what my risk was for today too. And then also about Peak Six. And then also, most importantly, Poker Power, where they can go and learn more about how to play poker. Now, I think you were working on an app last time I talked to you. Is that out now?
Yeah, the app is out. Poker Power Play.
Okay.
That exists. So we teach people in person. We teach them virtually. And, we're doing it every day. We have 20 some odd teachers across the U.S. who are traveling or being online to help move the ball forward for anybody who's interested.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Do you think you're just competing, creating a bunch of competitors now because you're going to get all these women now?
That's so funny you said it. So my co-founder, Matt, he said exactly that. You literally like 1 hour ago. And he's like, that would be a pure joy for us to be able to do that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think most people don't understand that, like, at your level of the game, I imagine, you want to keep winning, you want to keep building, but it's also something bigger.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you going to do? Take all the jets to the grave? No, I got to leave some behind. Jenny,
Right.
thank you so much for being here.
Much.
To the Big Deal podcast. I'm Codie Sanchez. Today, if you want to make money online and you want to do it building with code and are curious about AI, but even if you've never coded before, buckle up for this episode because I'm obsessed. So I've been so excited for this podcast because I'm sort of a tech Neanderthal, but I've been going down a rabbit hole of AI. I hired a guy who's actually good at it. And it almost feels to me like there's a world before I realized all the things we could do online, and now there's a world afterwards. And almost everything my employees do, everything I do in business, I'm like, wow, why are we doing it the way we did last year? Because it almost doesn't make sense anymore. And what's crazy to me about you is you figured this out at like 6. I think, like, is it a true story that when you were 6 years old in Jordan, you were already coding and building software apps?
Yeah. So my father got a computer before anyone I knew back in Amman and Jordan in the early 90s. And so one of my really earliest vivid memories was standing behind the shoulders on my dad, kind of unboxing this machine, pulling out this huge manual, open it up, and you had to read a manual. There's no internet at the time, and sort of finger typing on the keyboard. And I was just fascinated by it. This idea that you can like talk to this machine and like convey what you want to build and you can build it. I'm still, it's just still gives me goosebumps. So just the idea of like creation, being able to be creative without a lot of resources, or, you don't have to build a real physical thing. All you need is this machine. And so I got into it immediately and started building apps. The first thing that I built was a math teaching app for my younger brother. So it will be like a, formula, 1 + 1 = blank. He puts in 2, he gets a clap. He puts in 3, he gets a boo. And it worked out. Now he works for me. So.
Wow. I love that. Yeah. I don't know what kind of Wheaties they had in Jordan, but that's like, I had, Lincoln Logs and Legos. But then, what's kind of crazy is then you had a 180 basically from that, which is it true that afterwards, not so long ago, you actually turned down $1 billion as an acquisition price for your company when you only had 6 employees. What happened?
Yeah. We had started the company in 2016, and the mission behind the company is to create 1 billion coders, 1 billion programmers, 1 billion developers, whatever you want to call it. And I just felt in my heart of hearts that we're at a point where anyone can make software. I felt like the AI is progressing really fast, just the cloud systems, everything that was coming online made it so that anyone could really be able to do this thing that have fundamentally changed my life. Got me from Jordan in a sort of lower income family all the way to the US, become an entrepreneur, joining Y Combinator, the most prestigious startup accelerator. And in 2018, just after we did Y Combinator, we kind of bootstrapped for a couple of years. Then we did Y Combinator. Maybe 2019, we got this acquisition offer from a really big company. And obviously it was a lot of money, and I didn't have a lot of money at the time, but I just felt like they're gonna take the company, not gonna do anything interesting with it, and I'll make the money, and maybe I'll quit 2 or 3 years after that and create the same company. So I thought, I like this company, I might as well keep going. And I always felt like if we get to a point where we achieve even 1% of our mission, this could be a much bigger company. And we achieved that valuation a few years ago, and the company is probably valued more today.
Walk me through that moment. So you get an offer, you meet a guy, I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
And did you seriously contemplate it? Were you like, I need to sleep on this?
Yeah, I did. It wasn't like a knee-jerk reaction, kind of like $1 billion. I'm just gonna. And I talked to our investors, and I remember talking to Mark Andreessen, who's invented the web browser, Netscape, and he's now running Andreessen Horowitz, a very prestigious investment firm. They hadn't just invested in Replit. He goes, look, we'll pocket the profit. We just invested in you, and we're going to make a lot of money. But what do you want? Like, what are you going to do afterwards? Do you want to go work for this big tech company and become like corporate employee, or do you want to keep going on your mission? And I talked to a bunch of other people, and I kind of felt like the weight of Silicon Valley was on my shoulder. Like everyone really believed in what we're doing, and I didn't want to let people down. I also just kind of didn't want to let our users down, our customers, our dreams, and I also felt like I have the kind of skills to always be able to make good living. And I think, we all know that after a certain level of wealth, your life doesn't really change all that much. And so I like money. I don't want to make it seem like I think money is a great thing. I think it gives you a lot of freedom and comfort in order to achieve more things. And I think the thing that I'm most attracted to is building great things.
Yeah. Yeah, because, it's not like now Replit seems like this gargantuan, right? Like 100 million in annual recurring revenue. I look at your little chart and just, whoa. I mean, it's pretty wild to look at. But it took you 9 years to even get to your first $10 million in revenue, right? Like you weren't really making any money at all for multiple years.
Yeah.
You were burning cash.
That's right.
First your own, then a little bit of YC, then a little bit of third-party investors. It's not like this was an overnight success at all.
No.
And so I'm curious, did you ever have a moment where you were like, we are not going to make it, and I'm not good enough, and this company's not going to work out?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in 2024, early 2024, so last year, the company had not been growing all that much. We're kind of hit a plateau and started decreasing a little bit. So we were in this awkward position where we make it easy enough to get started, but not enough to get you all the way to building a business or a real piece of software. And because our focus is on getting everyone to make applications, anyone with a dream, without any skill or background in computer science, should be able to come to Replit and make an app. That was always the kind of the core of the mission. We're also not very good for professional developers because they needed all these tools that we didn't have. And so we were in this like awkward middle and not making any revenue, and have this really large staff, 130 people, had raised $200 million. And as you talk about it in the book, like, there are businesses that you could build that provide a lot of, profit and good living for yourself, and you have complete, control of what you do. But once you take on venture capital, there's almost a contract you're implicitly kind of getting into, which is, I'm going to build $1 billion company. I'm going to build something really scalable, really big. And I take that responsibility seriously as well. So I felt like the only way to really achieve our mission and for the business to take off is to invent an automated coder, so that you go to Replit and you really don't have to learn to code at all. And so we lay off almost half the team. Oof. We move out of San Francisco because San Francisco is such a bubble. I'm sure kind of LA is the same here, but everyone's talking all the time. There's FOMO all the time. Everyone's going to like parties, and we move out of San Francisco. We go down to the South Bay. We get this office in the suburbs, and we're like, okay, we're going to spend 3-4 months trying to invent this new thing. And we felt that technology is sort of getting there in terms of AI. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, like, I don't know what I'm going to do afterwards. Maybe look for an acquisition or something like that. And it wouldn't have been a pretty nice acquisition. It wouldn't have been $1 billion acquisition. So we start building it. And I think even 2 weeks in, we felt like we had something that could change the world. And so we launched in September 2024. And it was the first coding agent on the market where you can just like put a prompt and it will like make you an application. It will create a database for you. It will like put it out, deploy it, and scale it for you, do all of that. And it went viral. And we just put out like a small video, very low production on a cell phone, and it went super viral. And our revenue that year climbed to 10 million ARR. And then when we got out of beta and the agent got really good, that's when we went to 100 million ARR in a matter of 6-7 months.
That's wild. What's interesting though, and why I was so attracted to what you do, is because it could sound corny to say, I want to create 1 billion coders. You're like, okay, Silicon Valley, typical mission, put 1 billion in something. Yeah, exactly. Except I've used the product and like not an ad, but it's incredible, especially for somebody who's really not tech advanced. And I really associated to it because I think, our mission at Contrarian Thinking is to create millions of owners. And I think that sounds cheesy to people who would rather have, I don't know, a couple $1 billion in assets under management as an investment firm instead. And I think there are a lot of people that say, no, people who want AI just want to concentrate all the power.
Yeah.
And you're kind of doing the opposite of it. So why don't you explain to people what exactly Replit is and why it's revolutionary, and maybe even how could somebody use it today to change their life?
Yeah. Look, technology had always had two visions. The massive centralized mega corporation, mega government, surveillance state vision, the dystopian future, that's sort of like the Matrix and all these different movies. But there was always also a vision of the sort of the hacker in their basement that are building amazing thing, or the startup founders in their garage, or the Bitcoin crypto hackers who can like create systems of money and encryption outside of the control of governments and things like that. So that vision existed always. And at any given time, like when the internet started, it started as this idea of decentralized, empower the people thing. And then over time, we centralized on kind of a few big tech companies and things like that. And now we're at a moment of time where there could be another shift. And that shift could send us into more centralization or bring back power to people so that we can have more owners, more founders, more entrepreneurs, a more dynamic economy. And this is what I'm really passionate about. So what Replit is, it's an automated AI coder. So everyone has ideas. Like I talk to Uber drivers all the time. Everyone has an idea. Everyone is kind of everyone in any field, they are domain experts, right? But they usually do not have the coding skills in order to build an online business or some kind of business using technology. because they don't have the skills. So they usually go and they try to find an agency to do it for them. And they get quoted an enormous amount of money, hundreds of thousands, $1 million we sometimes hear. And they give up on that dream because who has that kind of money? Some people go into debt and they still get screwed by the freelancers and all of that. Or their ideas are maybe perhaps need a lot of iteration and they don't have the money for it. So you go to Replit, you put in, start with a simplified version of your idea, get an MVP or a prototype, minimum viable product, and you're going to see the AI coder coding in front of you. It'll spend 10 minutes kind of researching, showing you the design. Once you approve the design, it will start building the application, and you'll get a prototype in a matter of 10 minutes. And then you look at it and it'll say, I like this. It has this functionality. Okay, let's add, let's change the color of this button, but also let's add an entirely new feature to the website. And I'll spend another 5 minutes working on this and getting it done for you. And then, you can spend weeks building that business and then launching it. And we hear from entrepreneurs that the other day I was talking to someone who works in venture capital. Mm-hmm. This is what I was talking about, where everyone has domain knowledge. This VC, he's not even on the investing team, he's on the sort of finance team, understands all the problems and woes of managing a portfolio of companies. And they buy all sorts of software. None of the software works for them, right? I'm sure you can relate. Yep. And so he goes into Replit, spends weeks, nights and weekends, 40, 50, 60 hours a week, building his dream platform to manage his investments. And then he realizes that he has a business on his hands. And he goes and talks to different finance people at different VC companies. They all have the same problems. And he starts showing them software, and everyone was like, we want to buy it now. And he got commitments for 5 million ARR before he quit his job. So in a matter of weeks, he had a business on his hand, and now he quit his job and he has the contracts and the money is flowing in. So everyone has this. Think about it as, when Airbnb came on the scene, they found this asset that wasn't monetized. Everyone has space in their home that wasn't monetized. I think everyone has domain knowledge that is not monetized. And the way to monetize that domain knowledge, to scale yourself, you talk about it in your book, the difference between an owner and a worker is the worker kind of trades time for money. I think owners often trade experience for scalable experience for money, right? So putting your experience into a piece of software, and that can scale to hundreds, perhaps thousands, perhaps millions of customers, and you're going to be able to make a lot of money.
It's so true. I mean, what's interesting is, if somebody's never played with AI before, to me, what it looks like is you kind of write, or I now am a voice to text annoying person who uses like whisper flow. And I just say awesome. Out loud the things that I like, that I'd like to build. I would like to build, this exact thing. I want to build a, portfolio dashboard, and I want it to look like XYZ, and I'd like it to be monochromatic and there to be like very simplistic buttons and blah, 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 blah. And you sort of iterate on this continuously. And then on the right-hand side, and we can show it on YouTube if you guys want to watch the video there, it kind of looks to me, because I am not a coder, like what I imagine the Matrix might look like in some ways. And so you have multicolored code that's sort of happening, and you can then you could be over to the left watching Real Housewives or whatever show you watch. That's right. And simultaneously this agent is running. Yeah. And so you have a little employee for the first time ever that you get for a couple $100 a month. That's right. That kind of does exactly what you want it to do continuously. And so I think you might have just answered this question in some way, but do you think that it is now possible for a single individual, in the case of a few weeks, who has zero coding experience, to build $1 million business with Replit? Yeah.
So we have another entrepreneur. His name is John Chaney, and had this idea. He has some domain knowledge on how to use AI for different kind of things, marketing and storytelling and things like that. And but he hasn't coded ever. He hasn't used AI coding tools, and he wanted to build an education platform to do AI training for consumers or AI training for enterprise. So he wanted to build an entire learning management system and seat-based enterprise software. And he did it in a matter of weeks, and he reached a $1 million+ run rate in a matter of weeks. Now, look, I don't want to make it seem easy. And again, on the way here, I was reading your book, which was really inspiring. And in one thing you say, it's not easy. Entrepreneurship is not easy. And a lot of people, when I come on these podcasts, I've learned that a lot of people think that I'm selling magic. I'm not selling magic. Like, you're going to go there, the agent is amazing, right? And it's coding for you. And you can go look at the code if you want to learn how it works and ask it how this code works or whatever. But you can also be outside of the code and be acting as a manager. And management is hard. You need to think clearly. You need to communicate clearly. And it's going to get frustrating. The agent, the AI is going to make errors, and you'll be able to correct it. And it's going to require some resourcefulness. You're probably going to have to do some research. You're going to have to tinker and iterate and spend hours on this. So I think, the people who are successful with entrepreneurship usually have reached a point of their life where something changes in them, and either the boss they hate or the stresses of money in their lives, or just like the routine work that they hate and they want to change, they want more thrill in their lives, and they make that decision. And they're like, I'm just going to build something for myself. I want to be an owner. And after you made that decision, you're just gonna do whatever it takes to get it done, right? And I think this is where Replit can help you. But you need to have the grit and the persistence in order to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think the other part that's interesting about what you guys have built is a lot of people who build AI tools or tools with AI or things to help with coding historically have been for the sophisticated professional few,
yes,
which would be similar to finance. It's like in the elite class, you want to speak only to investment bankers. You want to speak only to those on Wall Street. And if you were to normalize finance investing, well, that's too simplistic. That's too low level. And, those people, it's a little bit beneath us to talk to them. And I think a lot of times it seems that there's similarities in engineering and code where it's like, vibe coding, which
That's
is
right.
what people now call this ability to code without having deep experience and being an engineer.
Right. You just go off vibes. Yeah.
Right. I was trying to, how would you even define vibe coding, which is now what people only talk about vibe coding on X now, I feel like.
That's right. Yeah. So vibe coding, I would say, is previously, when you have an idea and you want to turn it into code, right? You're turning business logic into hard mathematical constructs, right? And most of your time is spent on that constructs, on the syntax of doing that, which is not really the problem solving that you want to be doing, right? Programmers spend maybe 20% of their time actually thinking about users, the product, and then they spend 80% of their time fighting with the systems, figuring out how to deploy it and scale it and run the database and all of that. So we're trying to take care of all of this nonsense, right? You don't have to worry about it. And the idea behind vibe coding, which I don't think it's the best term, but we're kind of stuck with it, is that you can trust that the AI is making the right decisions based on the vibes that it's giving you. So you are communicating the business goals that you intend to create, and the system is building this on your behalf. And if the vibes are correct, and if you can test it and feel like it's working, you can trust that it works. And 80-90% of the time it does.
So is it a bit like building a house? So like before we knew how to build foundations and we knew how to do, traditional home building, that might have been the unique character trait in a home builder, which is like they can do this thing that we've never done before. They can make a house withstand over time. They can build it correctly. That is actually the most important part in home building.
Right.
Whereas now today, that's normalized. We've commoditized the fact that yes, we can build houses. Yes, they can withstand things. They can function properly. And now the part that's non-commoditized is essentially design. It's
Right.
like the people who make the most money are the ones that make the user interface, aka the aesthetic of it,
Yeah.
and new functionality on top of it are the ones that get paid more. Is that kind of what you see in the future? Before it used to be engineers like, can you even build this?
Yeah.
And now it's like, no, we could build a lot of things.
Yep.
And now it's just, is it beautiful? Is it user friendly? Can you sell it?
Yep.
And the design component becomes even more important.
I think your business is a good illustration of this, like social media and being able to build this show. previously you needed to get on some kind of TV channel, like, 50, 100 years ago, even 20, 30 years ago, you needed some kind of cable channel you needed some kind of studio to take a bet on you. And now you can go to YouTube, 2 clicks, you have a channel. And so what's left? That's a commodity, right? Like having a presence online is a commodity. What's left is charisma, is creativity, is grit. Again, grit is the thing, right? Yeah. Like you have to keep going. You just keep showing up. And, a lot of entrepreneurs will tell you that. It's a truism. It's a cliche, but it's true. You have to show up day after day after day, learn, become 1% better every day, which adds up to enormous amount of progress in a matter of month or a year. And if you do that consistently, you're going to be at the top of your game. You're going to be able to stand out from the pack. Because look, most people are lazy. Most people just don't want to do a lot of work. They're happy with which is nothing wrong with that. No judgment. Like, a lot of people work hard and they want to, spend time with their family. They don't want to change too much things about their lives.
They're probably
like
happier and more well-adjusted than we are.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to that. I think entrepreneurs, there's always something, either a chip on the shoulder or some dark past or something like that.
Yeah, one of my friends had the best line. He was like, "Entrepreneurship is a trauma response," and I was like, "You're probably right."
That's probably true. Yeah, you feel like you have something to prove or something.
Yeah.
But it could fundamentally change your life to the better. And I think what's left. So similarly to YouTube, now in software, in apps, and business making, and online businesses, is the domain knowledge, I think, is the main thing. If you understand something really deeply, or you can go learn it really deeply, you can go build a business around it, right? We have stories of people who work on event